Stock owes its suppliers about 203 million Ghana cedis. The Speaker, since 2017, Buffer Stock has done business with the suppliers to the tune of 2.7 billion Ghana cedis.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. This is the show where we put Ghana first in all of our conversations. On today's edition of the show, government says it has released 100 million cedis, which serves as half of payment or 50% of payment owed food suppliers of the Food Buffer Stock Company Limited under the Free SHS program. Up ahead on today's edition of the show, we ask if the food suppliers have received the said funds and what their next line of action would be. And still on the food conversation, global trends appear to be having some effect on us because the recent disagreement between Russia and Ukraine over Ukraine's grain deal, according to experts, could mean that food prices for you and I at our various markets will spiral upwards. On today's edition of the show, we'll hear from the General Agricultural Workers Union as to exactly what this means and whether or not it is the case that we should brace ourselves for a lot more difficulties. This is Let's Talk Ghana. Stay with us. We're back to sink our teeth into the matters. Right, you're welcome back to Let's Talk Ghana. Like I mentioned, this is the show where we put Ghana first in all of our conversations. It airs every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays here on Studios 2 TV, on YouTube, as well as on Facebook. So let's start off on our very first subject matter for today. And it's a conversation we brought you a lot of details on here on Let's Talk Ghana. It has to do with the food suppliers of the Food Buffer Stock Company, the National Food Buffer Stock Company, under the Free SHS program. They have been providing or supplying senior high schools with food, and then they cook for the students under the Free SHS program. So all of our secondary school students at our various boarded and in some day schools as well, they have been supplying them food. But they said that they were owed up to 270 million cedis, which resulted in picketing the premises of the National Food Buffer Stock Company. And upon a number of days of their action, the Agric Minister, Brian Echampo, made his way there, the minority made his way there was a back and forth, and then the matter was to be resolved. Well, yesterday on the floor of the House, even though the minority in Parliament boycotted sitting, Brian Echampo was there to provide update and says that 50% of the monies owed them has been paid. 50% of 203 million cedis, being some 100 million cedis. Here's Brian Echampo on the floor of the House.
Mr. Speaker, currently, Buffer Stock owes its suppliers about 203 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, since 2017, Buffer Stock has done business with the suppliers to the tune of 2.7 billion Ghana cedis. In 2017, it was 81.1 million. 2018, 296 million. 2019, 441 million. 2020, 467 million. 2021, 692 million. 2022, 726 million. Mr. Speaker, Buffer Stock has made payments in respect of 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 in full. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, of the 726,617,881 Ghana cedis, 500 million cedis has been paid to the suppliers. We still owe suppliers a little north of 203 million Ghana cedis. Such release, Mr. Speaker, we've sent to finance, and last week we received 100 million, which is 50% of what is due the suppliers. We have transferred same through the processes to Buffer Stock. We're hoping that Mr. Speaker, by the midweek this week, that 50% will be sent to suppliers. Mr. Speaker, I have also assured the suppliers that by the 17th of August, as we commence the payment of the 50%, 17th of July, by the 17th of August, the remaining 50% will be paid. Mr. Speaker, we have kept faith with the buffer stock suppliers. As I mentioned, the total business that they've done with the buffer stock company is to the tune and exact 2,705,408,476 cedis and 58 pesos, 2.7 billion, out of which 2.5 billion has been made. And we will pay the remaining, the 200 million that is submitted to us in full by the end of August. We commence payment hopefully by Wednesday, and in a month's time, the total payment will be made. We don't have challenges with the suppliers, so we are extremely surprised about the happenings in the last 2 weeks, but we take it in good faith and we'll continue to work with them. Thank you very much, Mr.
So that's the Agric Minister, Brian Echampon there. Let's get on the telephone lines and get reactions. Find out if that money has touched the account of the food suppliers. Kokwa Medume is a spokesperson for the food suppliers. He's joined us on the telephone lines this morning for a bit more. Ms. Medume, many thanks for joining us this morning. So, the government says that 50% of the monies owed you has been paid. First off, give us clarity. Is it 270 million that is owed you or 203 million cedis?
In fact, from the onset, 270 million was what we all understand. And in fact, the government officials, buffer stock officials have made allusions to this. So if we were still expecting that if they had discrepancies in what they got after their audit, it was in order that they tell us before coming public that they are paying us this amount. And the 50% they are talking about, we don't know how they arrive at the 50%, which became 100 million. We've not been communicated. So we are only waiting that when our money, we receive our money, we'll be able to know exact actuals that the government is willing to pay us.
So you're yet to receive the money, and from the indications we get, there hasn't been communication from government for you to get an exact understanding as to how they arrived at the 50% and how this disbursement is going to be made. Is it the case that you'll be seeking that going forward now?
What I'm saying that we are not engaged on the figure. We are only told to come tomorrow. That tomorrow they'll start paying. We only want to know that this is the amount that we are going to receive from the public domain.
Right.
So we cannot, then we have taken it as one of those promises that we have received over the years. So we are waiting to see the actual that they are paying. Then we can determine on the way forward.
The minister made the comment on the floor of the House, and so the expectation by and large is that all things being equal, you begin to receive your payment. Is this a green light for you now to resume distributing food again, should you begin receiving your monies?
We are open to continue working with government. The government is willing to work with us.
That's all there is.
Yes.
And
we are ever ready to work with government. It is government that are going to contract new set of people.
right. So just finally on the second half of payment, because if anything is to go by, you're saying that you're not even sure if the money that has been released is 50%. And so what happened to the second part that you're expecting, which reason you were at the buffer stock company for some days?
We are not expecting any second release. We are expecting the full settlement of our month. Because what they are telling us that next month we should come, that we have never had any discussion of that nature. In all our engagement, they have never indicated to us that giving us half of the money. And so nobody has told us what you are telling me. They have told the media men, they have publicly told Parliament, and so we're waiting to see.
You're waiting to see. All right, then. Ms. Amedume, wait when you receive the monies, and I'm sure we'll come back to you and get a bit more. All right, thank you very much. That's Koko Amedume. He speaks for the food suppliers under the National Buffer Stock Company, and they essentially provide food to our students in the various junior high schools. It's a subject that we'll stay a lot on if you stay with us here on Let's Talk Ghana. But we're continuing on food and revelations that have come through as a result of international happenings on the international front and its repercussions for us here in Ghana. Now, two major events have taken place. I'll walk you through them. The first is the ongoing war with Russia and Ukraine, and there was an agreement that was in place which allowed Ukraine supply its grains to the rest of the world and Europe, which helped deal with food supply challenges, particularly on the African continent. Well, Russia says that now they are holding back on that deal, and so they are not going to let it go through. And then the second being also the European Union allowing a ban on Russian grain again to some countries. Now, these twin activities, according to experts, could spell doom for food prices here in Ghana. In fact, one of such persons is the Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, who's been writing on Twitter quite comprehensively how this is going to affect food inflation, which is already at 54%, and the resultant effects that we could see being policy rates being affected as well, which stands at some 29.5% currently. With all of the concerns and all of the conversations, we put the conversation to farmers, persons who are directly responsible for the feeding, the input, and all of that on the farms. Edward Caraway is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. I put these concerns to him, first off asking whether or not the concerns are legitimate. Here is what he told me.
I think that the concerns are legitimate because they are going to have a negative effect on us who are not in Europe because of our strong ties, trade relations with Europe. Anything that affects Europe affects us as well. Just also because we have not been able to insulate our economies with that of the European countries. So whatever decision that is taken there certainly has an impact on us.
And in the immediacy, is there anything that it seems can be done by the government of the day to avert a possible food price hike, considering that the planting season may already be behind us?
Well, this has always been the call by well-meaning Ghanaians that the economy should be managed in such a way that we are not overly exposed to external vagaries of their economies, But unfortunately, we are still struggling to insulate our economies. Now, we all know very well that we should produce enough to feed ourselves. But unfortunately, all our strategies over the years to have enough food to feed ourselves have not actually achieved the results. As it stands now, what government needs to do is to increase investment in agricultural production. But I just wonder whether government has got the resources to do so. And not even only that, the bureaucracy that goes with government in terms of resources to productive areas, particularly agriculture. So I am not seeing that government, first and foremost, is ready to change its course to invest more in agriculture. And then secondly, whether government will also be able to surmount the challenges that go with this type of emergency deployment of resources to the agricultural sector to be able to increase our production to avert further price increases as a result of the decisions that have been taken in Europe.
Which quite simply means that the prices of food on the Ghanaian markets is rightly expected to go up rather significantly.
Yeah, you agree with me that the phenomenon of food prices going up has been with us for about 2-3 years now continuously. You know that food inflation has been leading the national food increase. And it isn't that government is not aware, but it's just about the ability to stop it. And we have still not been able to do so. The recent government statistics report shows that food inflation is still is leading.
Right.
And so because of that, I don't think that we have an immediate solution. So everybody should still actually brace for higher prices in the coming months.
Right then, Edward Caraway is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union speaking to us here on Let's Talk Ghana. We're going on a short break. When we return, we'll get into politics. This is Let's Talk Ghana. Right then, you're welcome back to Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. This is the show where we put Ghana first in all of our conversations. Today we're focusing on politics, and this time I say today because we're switching it up a bit. We know that the primaries of the governing New Patriotic Party is coming up shortly, and we've been focusing largely on the key contenders, spoken about Dr. Baumia, Alan Chomantin. Today, it's the turn of Kennedy Ohene Japan, and he has been touring the Savannah region, and amongst many things has been speaking to delegates and the likes. But out of the many things that have been coming up from his conversation, which was quite pivotal or was widely seen on social media, had to do with swipes he took at the vice president, Dr. Baumia. Well, there's been responses that have come through against his person, that's Kennedy Japan, and we sought to find out, first off, from his campaign team exactly how it's been going and their reactions to some of the fight back to the comments. Here's exactly what they've been telling us. Central MP Kennedy Japan has been touring the Savannah region and is headed towards the Ashanti region. Let's touch base with a spokesperson of his campaign, Banasco Amponwasa, has joined us on the telephone line. Many thanks, sir. So first off, let's start with the campaign of Kennedy Japan. Do we know where he's currently headed and what the message has been all throughout the visits to the various regions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mawina, and let me say a good afternoon to our cherished listeners. Currently, we are in the Savannah region, where yesterday we visited 4 constituencies. Today, we're doing 4. In total, we've done 218 constituencies out of the 275 that make up the parliamentary seats in Ghana. We've done that, and we visited all the constituencies and had interaction with the delegates and party faithful. The core objective of this visitation is to resurrect, as it were, the dying spirit of the main party grassroots, which became foot soldiers who feel neglected, that at the end of getting victory, certain questions are posed to them to provide certain forms before they could access certain support. Meanwhile, during the campaign, that they sacrificed their time, they sacrificed their energy. They were the ones shouting Choboi. They were the ones filing the posters. They were the ones that climbed the electric poles to mount party flags and were electrocuted and died. And all of you, they are not getting the needed support from the party. So we visited them. We shared our message of hope that Kennedy Ohene Japan has said. He is the voice for the voiceless and the hope for the hopeless.
Right.
As I speak, we're meeting the delegates in the Savannah region. We are sharing our message with them, and it's been awesome. It's been fantastic. We started from Western North, came to Bono region, and then Bono East. We started the Savannah region yesterday. And so far, so very good. the message is going down well with the party people, and the message is that you have always fought for us, and when the time comes, we would also let you know that the fight you did for us, we appreciate, and we appreciate it with our votes.
Right. Just briefly, we know that your candidate is coming under some fire as well for his comment over the weekend, which sought to attack the vice president. How have you been responding to all of this?
Yeah, thank you. Let me quickly say that the use of the word attack is one that I will not strictly agree. And in principle, he did not mention the name of any aspirant. Ideally, if Kennedy Ohene Japan made a statement with regard to the economy and the exchange rate, there is a committee that manages it. And yes, the vice president is the head of that committee. At the end of the day, Kennedy Ohene Japan was responding to a comment made that they needed strategists who can turn the fortunes of this country. And you could trace the genesis of this issue when Kennedy Ohene Japan at Asasewa in the eastern region made a comment that when it comes to job creation, nobody can compare himself to him, because in Ghana here, he has established factories and employed over 7,000 people working and receiving salary daily. Same was made at Atebubuamantin when he told the delegates to give him the mandate to lead them and establish more, because he has established a starch factory that employs 978 workers.
Mr. Banasco, so that's Banasco Ampoansa, is one of the spokesperson of the Ken Japan campaign team. By way of news, though, the criminal trial of James Achikwesen is expected to continue today, even as his lawyers move an appeal the Court of Appeal to seek to stop the daily hearing of the trial. What it means is that Parliament will not sit as well today, because the minority members say they will continue to boycott sittings whenever James Achikwesen makes his way to Parliament. I am Eric Mawena Egbeta. That's it for our show today. As always, leave a message for us and we'll do the reading. Till we meet again on Friday. Many thanks for watching.
Studios 2 TV. The truth is here in your eyes.